The massive alien ships appeared in Earth's sky without warning. One moment, the stars looked normal. The next moment, dark shapes blocked out entire sections of space. The ships were bigger than anything humans had ever built. Each one stretched for miles. Across the darkness, Ambassador Jin-Woo Park stood in the shuttle bay of the lead alien vessel. His hands stayed steady even though his heart was racing. Around him, the walls pulsed with strange lights. The air smelled like metal and something sweet that made his nose wrinkle. This was humanity's first real meeting with aliens, and it was not going well. The alien commander stepped forward on 6 legs. Its skin looked like gray stone, and its eyes glowed red in the dim light. When it spoke, the words came through a device that made them sound hollow and cold. "I am War Prime, Thekvar of the Zephyrian Collective," the creature said. "Your species will listen to our terms." Jin-Woo nodded once. He had practiced this moment many times, but nothing could have prepared him for the real thing. "I am Ambassador Park of Earth. We are ready to hear what you have to say." The War Prime made a sound like grinding metal. Jin-Woo realized it was probably laughter, but not the happy kind. Other aliens filled the room behind their commander. They all carried weapons that hummed with energy. "Your planet has resources we need," Thekvar continued. "Your people will give us everything: water, metals, food, and your bodies for work. You will serve the collective as slaves. This is not a request." Jin-Woo felt his stomach drop, but he kept his face calm. "And if we refuse? Then we destroy every living thing on your world." Thekvar gestured to a wall screen. It showed Earth floating in space, looking small and blue and helpless. "We have done this to 47 worlds before yours. Their people thought they could fight us too." The screen changed to show dead planets, gray rocks where cities used to be. Empty oceans turned to dust. Jin-Woo had to work hard not to show his horror. "We scanned your military," another alien said. This one had purple skin and too many arms. "You have 300 ships. We have 30,000 in this fleet alone. Your weapons are like throwing rocks at a mountain." Jin-Woo looked around the room. The aliens were all watching him, waiting to see him break down or beg. Instead, he straightened his shoulders and spoke clearly. "How long do we have to consider your offer?" The question seemed to surprise them. Thekvar's red eyes flickered. "You wish to delay the inevitable?" "I wish to give your generous offer the proper thought it deserves," Jin-Woo replied. "Surely the great Zephyrian Collective would not want us to make such an important choice without careful consideration." The aliens whispered among themselves in their own language. It sounded like rocks grinding together mixed with the hiss of steam. Finally, Thekvar turned back to Jin-Woo. "You have 72 hours. After that, we begin the cleansing of your world." Jin-Woo bowed slightly. "Thank you for your patience. We will use the time wisely." As the shuttle carried him back to Earth, Jin-Woo allowed himself to shake for the first time. The pilot, Captain Lee, glanced back at him with worried eyes. "How bad is it, sir?" "As bad as it can get," Jin-Woo replied. "They want everything. If we say no, they kill everyone." Back on Earth, Dr. Hae-Jin Kim was having the strangest day of her career. She worked at the Deep Space Monitoring Station outside Seoul, watching for asteroids and other space dangers. Her job was usually boring. Today was different. The computer screens were going crazy. Energy readings from the moon were off the charts. The numbers made no sense. According to her instruments, something inside the moon was generating more power than the sun. "That cannot be right," she muttered, checking the equipment again. Everything looked normal. The readings stayed the same. Her assistant, Dr. Young Min Han, hurried over with printouts. "Dr. Kim, you need to see this." The energy spikes started exactly when the alien ships appeared. Hae-Jin studied the data. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. For billions of years, the moon had been quiet. Now, with humanity facing extinction, it was suddenly producing impossible amounts of energy. "Run a full-spectrum analysis," she ordered. "I want to know what is happening up there." The results made her sit down hard in her chair. The energy was not random. It had patterns, like a machine warming up. But what kind of machine could be hidden inside the moon? Her phone buzzed with an emergency message. All department heads had to report to the president immediately. As she gathered her data, Hee-jin wondered if she was the only one seeing these impossible readings. Around the world, people looked up at the sky with fear. The alien ships were easy to see now, dark shapes that blocked out stars. News reports showed crowds gathering in cities and religious leaders calling for prayer. Children asked their parents if the monsters from space were real. In military bases, generals looked at their weapons and knew the truth. Humanity's best technology was like arrows against a tank. The aliens had traveled between the stars. They had conquered dozens of worlds. Earth's small fleet of ships would last maybe minutes in a real fight. President Min-ho Choi stood on the balcony of his office, looking up at the enemy fleet. His advisors were already talking about surrender terms. They wanted to save as many lives as possible, even if it meant slavery for the rest. But something nagged at him. The human ambassador had sounded strangely calm on the radio. Jin-woo Park was not a man who gave up easily. He had negotiated peace deals in the worst situations before. If he was asking for time, he must have a reason. The president's phone rang. Dr. Kim was calling about energy readings from the moon. As he listened to her report, Min-ho felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe humanity had more surprises left than anyone knew. High above, the alien fleet waited in space. They had done this many times before. The pattern was always the same. The primitive species would panic, then beg, then surrender. After that came the easy part, stripping the world of everything useful. But War Prime Thekvar felt uneasy. The human ambassador had been too calm. Most species begged or threatened by now. This one had simply asked for time, as if he knew something the collective did not. Thekvar dismissed the feeling. Humans were young and weak. In 72 hours, their world would belong to the collective, just like all the others. The emergency meeting room deep under the Blue House was filled with Earth's most important people. Presidents, generals, and scientists sat around a long table. The walls showed screens with data from around the world. Everyone looked scared and tired. President Min-ho Choi stood at the head of the table. His face was grave as he spoke to the assembled leaders. "The situation is simple," he began. "We have 60 hours left before the aliens attack. Their fleet can destroy our entire planet. We need to decide how to respond." General Patricia Stone from the United States leaned forward. "Our combined military forces are no match for them. We counted over 30,000 ships in their fleet. Our weapons cannot even scratch their hull armor." "Then we must negotiate," said President Helena Vasquez from Brazil. "Perhaps we can offer them some of what they want in exchange for our freedom." Ambassador Jin-woo Park, who had just returned from the alien ship, shook his head sadly. "They do not negotiate. I saw it in their eyes. They have done this before, many times. They take everything or they destroy everything. There is no middle ground." Prime Minister David Chen from Australia slammed his hand on the table. Dr. Hye-jin Kim cleared her throat. She had been quiet during the political talk. But now, everyone looked at her. She was younger than most people in the room and felt nervous speaking to world leaders. "I may have found something," she said softly. "The moon is producing massive amounts of energy. It started exactly when the aliens arrived. The readings are unlike anything we have ever seen." She pressed a button, and the screens around the room filled with charts and numbers. The energy spikes were enormous, growing stronger every hour. "What kind of energy?" asked Dr. Sarah Williams, head of NASA. "That is the strange part. Heijin replied. It looks artificial, like a machine that has been sleeping for a very long time and is now waking up. An old man in the corner of the room stood up slowly. Dr. Kyung-Soo Lee was nearly 90 years old and walked with a cane. He had been quiet during the whole meeting, but now his eyes were bright with something that looked like understanding. Dr. Lee? President Choi asked. Do you have something to add? The old scientist nodded and walked to the front of the room. His voice was thin but clear. I have kept many secrets during my long career, he said. Secrets that seemed like fantasy until today. Secrets about our moon. Everyone leaned forward. Dr. Lee had been studying space for 70 years. If anyone knew hidden things about the moon, it would be him. The moon is not natural, Dr. Lee continued. We have known this for decades, but we kept it classified. The orbit is too perfect. The size compared to Earth is too unusual. The way it always shows the same side to us is impossible for a natural satellite. President Choi frowned. What are you saying, Doctor? I am saying that someone put the moon there on purpose. Doctor. Lee's words made the room go completely silent. But we always assumed it was aliens. We never considered that it might have been us. Dr. Williams from NASA shook her head. That is impossible. Humans have only had space technology for about 70 years. The moon has been there for billions of years. Dr. Lee smiled sadly. Modern humans have had space technology for 70 years. But what if we are not the first humans to reach the stars? He pressed buttons on his tablet, and new images appeared on the screens. Ancient cave paintings showing ships in the sky. Stone carvings of people in what looked like spacesuits. Artifacts from around the world that seemed to show advanced technology from thousands of years ago. Archaeological sites around the world contain these images, Dr. Lee explained. We always thought they were religious symbols or primitive art. But what if they were memories? What if ancient humans were far more advanced than we believed? Jin Woo studied the images carefully. Some of the cave paintings did look like spaceships. Others showed people working with machines that seemed too complex for ancient times. You think our ancestors built the moon? He asked. I think our ancestors put something inside the moon, Doctor. Lee replied. Something that was designed to protect Earth when the time came. Something that has been waiting for an extinction-level threat. Dr. Kim looked at her energy readings again. The patterns were becoming clearer now. The energy was not random. It was organized, like a computer system running startup programs. How would we activate such a system? Asked General Stone. Dr. Lee walked to another screen and brought up images of archaeological sites. Ancient temples, stone circles, and burial mounds from every continent. These sites all contain the same symbols, he said. We thought they were decorative. But I believe they are activation codes. The system requires input from multiple locations around the world. 1. President Choi studied the locations on the map. There are dozens of these sites. How would we know which ones to use? All of them, Dr. Lee replied. The system was designed to activate only when humanity was truly united. Only when every major nation on Earth agreed to work together. The room fell silent again. Everyone knew how difficult it was to get countries to agree on anything. Getting them to agree on something this important, with only hours left, seemed impossible. There is more, Dr. Lee continued. He brought up the final image, a stone tablet covered in symbols that looked almost like modern computer code. This tablet was found in a cave in Korea 20 years ago. It took us decades to translate it. The message is simple. When the stars bring death, the children of Earth shall remember who they truly are. President Chen from Australia leaned back in his chair. This is insane. You are asking us to believe that ancient humans built some kind of defense system in the moon and left us instructions in cave paintings. I am asking you to consider the possibility, Dr. Lee replied calmly. Because, if I am right, it may be our only hope. Dr. Kim looked at her readings again. The energy from the moon was still growing. Whatever was up there, it was definitely responding to the presence of the alien fleet. How long would it take to gather the activation codes from all these sites? She asked. Dr. Lee consulted his notes. Most of the symbols have already been photographed and studied. We could have teams at every location within 12 hours. General Stone shook her head. Even if this crazy plan works, we do not know what we are activating. It could be a weapon that destroys us, along with the aliens. Or it could be exactly what we need, Jinwoo said quietly. Our ancestors knew we would face this day eventually. If they built something to protect us, they would not have made it dangerous to their own descendants. President Choi looked around the room at the faces of world leaders. Fear, hope, and desperation mixed together in their expressions. We need to vote, he said finally. All in favor of attempting to activate whatever our ancestors left in the moon? One by one, hands rose around the table. Even the skeptics voted yes. When facing extinction, even impossible hope was better than certain death. Dr. Lee smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Then let us see what surprises our ancestors left for us. Captain So-Young Jang had never expected her job as head of Earth Defense Communications to involve archaeology. But here she was, coordinating teams at ancient sites across the globe while alien warships waited overhead. Her command center buzzed with activity. Screens showed teams working at Stonehenge in England, the pyramids in Egypt, ancient temples in Cambodia, and dozens of other locations. Each team was carefully copying symbols that had been carved into stone thousands of years ago. Team 7, reporting from Machu Picchu, came a voice over the radio. We have found the symbols on the temple wall, just like Dr. Lee predicted. They match the pattern from the Korean tablet. So-Young checked her list. Every hour brought confirmation from more sites. The symbols were everywhere, hidden in plain sight for thousands of years. Ancient humans had left a message for their descendants, and now humanity was finally learning how to read it. Captain Jang called her assistant, Lieutenant Park Min-jun. We are getting resistance from some local governments. They say we do not have permission to study their historical sites. So-Young rubbed her tired eyes. Even with aliens threatening to destroy the planet, some people were worried about paperwork and politics. Put me through to President Choi. We need him to make some calls. While she waited, So-Young looked at the main screen, showing the progress of symbol collection. They had found the codes at 60% of the required locations, but they needed all of them. According to Dr. Lee, the ancient system would not activate unless every piece was in place. The problem was bigger than just finding symbols. They also had to convince every major country on Earth to work together. Some nations were suspicious of the whole plan. Others worried that activating an unknown system might make things worse. President Choi appeared on the communication screen, looking exhausted but determined. What do you need, Captain? Sir, we are having trouble getting access to sites in 3 countries. Their governments are demanding guarantees that we will not damage historical artifacts. President Choi sighed. Which countries? France, India, and Mexico. They want written agreements and insurance policies before they let our teams work. We have 18 hours left before the aliens attack, and they want insurance policies? President Choi shook his head. I will handle this personally. 1. While President Choi made diplomatic calls, So-Young turned her attention to the technical side of the operation. Engineer Dong-hyun Seo and his team were working to create a unified input system that could send all the activation codes to the moon at once. How is the communication array coming along? She asked Dong-hyun. He looked up from a complex control panel covered in blinking lights. Almost ready, Captain. We have modified every major radio telescope and satellite dish on Earth. When we send the signal, it will be the strongest communication attempt in human history. And you are sure the moon will receive it? Dong-hyun nodded, though he looked nervous. Dr. Kim's energy readings suggest there is definitely something up there listening. The energy patterns change every time we test our equipment, like it is responding to our signals. So Young walked to the main display showing Earth from space. The alien fleet hung in the darkness like a swarm of metal insects. Their ships had not moved since arriving, but everyone knew they were watching and waiting. "Any sign that they know what we are doing?" she asked. "Their scanners are focused on our military bases and cities," Lieutenant Park replied. "They seem to think we are just panicking. They are not paying attention to the archaeological sites." That was good news, at least. The aliens expected humans to behave like all the other species they had conquered, begging for mercy, or making desperate military attacks. They did not expect humanity to dig up ancient secrets. So Young's communication panel lit up with incoming messages from around the world. The French government had agreed to allow access to their sites. India was still negotiating, but they were getting closer to a deal. Mexico wanted to send their own archaeologists to supervise the work, which would slow things down, but was better than nothing. "Captain," called Dr. Kim from her monitoring station. "The energy readings from the moon are changing again. The patterns are becoming more complex." So Young hurried over to look at the data. The energy waves looked almost like a heartbeat now, getting stronger and more regular. Whatever was inside the moon was definitely waking up. "How much time do we have left?" she asked. 16 hours and 23 minutes, Lieutenant Park replied. "But we still need codes from 12 more locations." The next few hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Teams worked through the night at ancient sites, using floodlights to illuminate stone carvings that had waited centuries to be properly understood. Governments that had been enemies for decades found ways to cooperate when facing extinction. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A team of graduate students at a university in Peru had been studying symbols that no one else had thought were important. When they saw the patterns everyone was looking for, they realized their university library contained rubbings of similar carvings from sites around South America. "We have been studying these symbols for years," the team leader explained over video call. "We never understood what they meant, but we have complete copies of all of them. You do not need to send teams to the remote locations. We can provide the codes right now." So Young felt a surge of hope. That solved the problem of reaching several sites that were too dangerous or remote to access in time. By dawn, they had symbols from 90% of the required locations. The remaining sites were all accessible, and teams were already on site. The biggest challenge now was India, where the government was still demanding detailed explanations of what the symbols would be used for. Ambassador Jin-Woo Park took over those negotiations personally. His calm, patient approach finally convinced the Indian Prime Minister that humanity's survival was worth the risk of activating an unknown, ancient system. "All teams report ready for final input," Lieutenant Park announced. "We have confirmation from every required location around the world." So Young looked at the timing display. They had 3 hours left before the alien deadline. Dong Hyun and his engineering team had finished preparing the communication array. Doctor. Kim reported that the moon's energy output was at maximum levels, as if it was ready and waiting. "This is it," So Young said to her team. "For the first time in human history, every major nation on Earth is working together toward a single goal. Whatever happens next, we can be proud of that achievement." She opened a communication channel to all team leaders around the world. "This is Captain Jang. All teams prepare for synchronized input in 60 seconds. The countdown began. In ancient temples and stone circles across the globe, human hands prepared to enter codes that had been waiting for thousands of years. Above them, the moon seemed to glow brighter than usual, as if it sensed that its long sleep was about to end. 10 seconds, So Young announced. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Input the codes now. Around the world, the ancient symbols were entered into the communication array simultaneously. The combined signal raced up to the moon at the speed of light. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Dr. Kim gasped and pointed at her screens. "Energy levels are off the charts," she reported. "Something big is happening up there." Through the windows of the command center, they could see the moon in the dawn sky. Thin lines of light were appearing on its surface, like cracks in an eggshell. The cracks grew brighter and longer as everyone watched. The moon was opening. The moon split apart like a flower blooming in fast motion. What had looked like solid rock for billions of years revealed itself to be something else entirely. Massive sections of the lunar surface folded back on invisible hinges, exposing the hollow interior. Captain So-Young Jang stared at the monitors in her command center, unable to believe what she was seeing. Inside the moon was not empty space or rock. It was filled with ships. Thousands and thousands of ships, arranged in perfect geometric patterns. "Are you getting this?" she asked Dr. Kim, who was frantically working at her instruments. "The energy readings are incredible, Doctor," Kim replied, her voice shaking with excitement. "There are at least 1,000,000 separate power sources in there." "No, wait. More than that. Much more." On the main screen, the ships were beginning to move. They emerged from the lunar shell in organized formations. Each vessel the size of a city. Their hulls were dark but covered in patterns of light that pulsed like heartbeats. Even from a distance, it was clear they were far more advanced than anything humanity had built. Lieutenant Park Min-jun was trying to count the emerging vessels. "Captain, the computer systems cannot keep up. There are too many ships to count accurately." Engineer Dong-hyun Seo ran calculations on his equipment. "Based on the power signatures, I estimate at least 1 billion separate vessels." The moon was not just a hiding place, it was a construction facility. These ships have been building themselves for thousands of years. Captain Zhang opened communication channels to governments around the world. Everyone needed to see this. Humanity was no longer alone and helpless. In space, the alien war prime Thekvar was experiencing his first moment of genuine fear in 3 centuries of conquest. His ship's sensors were screaming warnings about the massive fleet emerging from Earth's moon. "How many ships?" he demanded from his navigator. "Impossible to determine, War Prime. Our computers estimate over 1 billion vessels. Each one appears to be larger and more heavily armed than our flagship." Thekvar's 6 legs trembled. In all his years of conquering worlds, nothing like this had ever happened. Primitive species were supposed to have primitive defenses. They were supposed to beg and surrender, not reveal ancient armadas hidden in their own moons. "Retreat to minimum safe distance," he ordered. "We need to contact the collective high command immediately." But as his fleet tried to pull back, they discovered something disturbing. The human ships were not just emerging from the moon. They were surrounding the alien fleet. Somehow, vessels had appeared on all sides of the Zephyrian formation without being detected. Back on Earth, Captain Zhang was receiving the most important communication of her life. One of the massive human ships was sending a signal directly to her command center. "Unknown transmission coming in on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Park. "The signal is incredibly complex. It will take a few moments to decode." When the translation came through, a voice filled the command center. It spoke in Korean, but in an ancient dialect that sounded formal and ceremonial. "Greetings, children of Earth," the voice said. "I am Guardian Prime, protector of the human homeworld. We have waited long for this awakening." Captain Zhang took a deep breath and responded. "This is Captain So-Young Jang of Earth Defense. We are honored to meet you." "Are you human?" "We are the memory and legacy of humanity's first great age," Guardian Prime replied. "When our ancestors spread among the stars, they knew that someday Earth's children would face extinction. We were created to ensure that day would not be their last." The main screen changed to show a closer view of one of the ships. It was beautiful in a way that made Captain Zhang's heart ache. The hull was covered in artistic patterns that looked both ancient and futuristic. It was clearly made by human hands, but human hands far more skilled than any alive today. "How long have you been waiting?" she asked. "By your calendar, approximately 50,000 years," Guardian Prime answered. "We have watched your species grow and learn. We have seen your wars and your peace, your failures and your triumphs." Dr. Kim was studying the technical readings from the ships. The technology was so advanced that her instruments could barely understand it. The vessels seemed to bend space around themselves, making them faster and more maneuverable than anything science said was possible. "Guardian Prime," Captain Jang continued, "there is an alien fleet here that wants to destroy our world. They gave us an ultimatum. We are aware of the Zephyrian Collective," came the reply. "They have consumed 47 worlds, enslaving or destroying billions of sentient beings. Their war crimes span half the galaxy. On his flagship, War Prime Thekvar was receiving messages from his scattered fleet. Human ships had appeared near every Zephyrian vessel. The enemy had somehow moved faster than detection and surrounded his entire force. War Prime, his communications officer reported, "The human ships are transmitting on our frequencies. They want to speak with you." "Put them through," Thekvar growled, though his voice had lost much of its earlier confidence. The voice that came through his speakers spoke perfect Zephyrian, but with an accent he had never heard before. "War Prime Thekvar of the Collective. I am Guardian Prime of the Human Defense Fleet. You will listen carefully to what I have to say." "What do you want?" Thekvar demanded. "The same thing you offered the people of Earth. Surrender or face annihilation." Thekvar's red eyes blazed with fury. "Impossible. We are the Zephyrian Collective. We have conquered half the galaxy, and in doing so, you have made yourselves enemies of every free species remaining," Guardian Prime replied calmly. "Your empire ends today. The question is whether it ends with your surrender or your destruction." On Earth, Captain Jang watched the conversation with amazement. For the first time, since the aliens arrived, humanity was not the one being threatened. "Guardian Prime," she said over their private channel, "what are your intentions toward the Zephyrian fleet?" "That depends on their choice," came the reply. "We have the power to destroy them completely. Their ships are primitive compared to our technology. But destruction is not the human way." Captain Jang felt a surge of pride. Even after 50,000 years, the ancient AI understood what made humanity special. It was not their weapons or their technology. It was their choice to show mercy when they had the power to destroy. "We want to offer them a different path," Guardian Prime continued. "But the decision must come from Earth's current leaders. You are the children of those who built us. The choice of war or peace belongs to you. Number says, unservant. Number says, unservant. Unservant." Around the world, presidents and prime ministers were receiving the same message. For the first time in human history, their species had the ultimate power in a conflict. They could choose to be conquerors like the Zephyrians, or they could choose to be something better. Ambassador Jinwoo Park, who had spent his life negotiating peace between enemies, smiled as he prepared to make the most important proposal of his career. Humanity had found its strength, and now it was time to show the galaxy what that strength would be used for. Above them all, 1 billion ships waited in perfect formation, ready to follow whatever orders their human descendants would give. The ancient gift was complete. Now, it was time to decide how to use it. Ambassador Jinwoo Park stood in the communications center, preparing to make a choice that would echo across the galaxy. Around him, world leaders watched on screens as he prepared to speak with Guardian Prime and decide the fate of the Zephyrian fleet. "Guardian Prime," Jinwoo said clearly, "humanity chooses mercy." The ancient AI's response came after a pause that felt like surprise. "Explain your reasoning, Ambassador." "The Zephyrians have destroyed 47 worlds. Justice would demand their punishment." "Justice, yes," Jinwoo replied. but not vengeance. If we destroy them now, we become no different from what they were. The galaxy needs healers, not more conquerors. Captain So Young Jang watched the tactical displays as the human ships maintained their perfect surrounding formation. The Zephyrian vessels were completely trapped, but the human fleet was holding position instead of attacking. "What do you propose?" Guardian Prime asked. President Minho Choi stepped forward to join the conversation. "We propose that the Zephyrian Collective face a choice. They can return to the worlds they have conquered and help rebuild what they destroyed. They can work to heal instead of harm. Or they can face the consequences of refusing to change." On his flagship, War Prime Thekvar listened to the human offer with confusion. In 3 centuries of conquest, no one had ever offered him mercy when they held the superior position. "You would trust us to keep such an agreement?" he asked. "No," Jinwoo replied honestly. "We would verify. Your fleets will be monitored. Your actions will be watched. But we believe that any species capable of building starships is also capable of learning to be better." Thekvar's communications officer whispered to him urgently. "War Prime, our sensors show more human fleets emerging throughout the galaxy. They have ships hidden near dozens of star systems." The full scope of humanity's ancient preparations was becoming clear. This was not just one defense fleet hidden in Earth's moon. It was a galaxy-wide network that had been waiting for 50,000 years to activate. Guardian Prime confirmed their fears. "The lunar fleet is one of many. Our creators prepared defenses throughout the galaxy, hidden and waiting. Today, they all have awakened. The age of conquest by force is ending." Dr. Haijin Kim was monitoring communications from across space. Human ships were appearing near every major Zephyrian military base. More importantly, they were also appearing near the conquered worlds, offering protection to the enslaved populations. "Guardian Prime," she said, "what about the species the Zephyrians enslaved? What happens to them?" "They will be freed," came the immediate reply. "Our ships are already moving to liberate every conquered world. The collective's victims will choose their own futures, with our protection if they need it." This news spread quickly through the Zephyrian fleet. Their entire empire was being dismantled in a matter of hours, but the humans were doing it without firing a single shot. They were simply surrounding every collective force and offering the same choice: change or face the consequences. War Prime Thekvar found himself in an impossible position. His species had built their entire culture around conquest and domination. The idea of helping their former victims seemed almost unthinkable. But the alternative was total destruction by a force they could not match. "How do we know you will not simply destroy us once we are defenseless?" he asked. Captain Jang spoke up. "Because we are human. Mercy is not a weakness for us. It is our greatest strength. We believe that every thinking being can choose to be better than they were." Engineer Dong Hyun Seo was analyzing the technical data from the human ships. What he found was incredible. The vessels were not just weapons of war. They were equipped with construction facilities, medical bays, and terraforming equipment. They had been designed to heal worlds, not just protect them. "The ships are equipped for rebuilding," he reported. "They can restore damaged ecosystems, construct new cities, even repair atmospheric damage. Our ancestors built them to heal the galaxy after protecting it." This information was transmitted to the Zephyrian fleet as well. The humans were not just offering to spare their enemies. They were offering to help them become part of the solution. "Think of it, War Prime," Guardian Prime said. "Your species has conquered many worlds, but you have never built anything lasting. You take resources but create nothing new. What if you could learn to build instead of destroy?" For the first time in his life, Thekvar considered the possibility. The Zephyrian collective had been expanding for thousands of years, but what did they have to show for it? Stripped worlds and enslaved populations. Nothing that would last or be remembered with pride. What would you require of us? He asked finally. Jinwoo had prepared for this question. First, immediate withdrawal from all conquered worlds. Second, reparations to the species you have harmed. Third, acceptance of human monitors to ensure compliance. And fourth, a commitment to use your technology and knowledge to help rebuild what you destroyed. The terms were harsh but not impossible. More importantly, they offered a path forward that did not end in the extinction of his species. I will need to consult with the collective high command, Thekvar said. You have 1 hour, Guardian Prime replied. After that, we begin the liberation of your conquered worlds, with or without your cooperation. The next hour passed slowly. On Earth, people gathered in streets and squares to watch the news broadcasts. For the first time in days, children were smiling. The monsters from space were no longer threatening their world. Around the galaxy, the liberation had already begun. Human ships were appearing at enslaved worlds and offering protection to the captive populations. The sight of hope returning to species that had given up on freedom was one of the most beautiful things Captain Zhang had ever seen. Finally, Thekvar's response came through. The Zephyrian Collective accepts your terms. We will withdraw from all conquered worlds and begin the process of rehabilitation. The word seemed to taste strange in his mouth, but he said it with growing conviction. Perhaps there was a different way to exist in the galaxy. Welcome to a new age, Guardian Prime replied. Today, the galaxy becomes what it was always meant to be, a community of free species working together. As the Zephyrian ships began their withdrawal, Jinwoo opened a general communication channel that reached every human ship in the fleet. To all ships, to all the Guardians who have waited so long for this day, thank you. You have given us not just the power to survive, but the chance to help others survive as well. The mission now is not conquest, but healing. Not domination, but cooperation. Guardian Prime's response carried what sounded like satisfaction. This is what we were built for, Ambassador. Not just to protect Earth, but to protect the values that make humanity special. The galaxy will be different now. Dr. Kim watched her instruments as the massive human fleet began to spread throughout the galaxy. Ships were heading to every corner of known space, carrying offers of friendship and protection to species that had lived in fear for too long. Guardian Prime, she asked, what happens next? Do you return to the moon? No, came the reply. Our sleeping is finished. We will remain active, helping to build the new galaxy. But the choices will always belong to humanity's children. We are your tools, not your masters. President Choi stood on the balcony of his office, looking up at the sky. The alien ships were gone, replaced by the gentle glow of human vessels, preparing for their long journeys. Earth's moon looked different now, too. No longer a simple satellite, but a reminder of the incredible gift their ancestors had left them. What do you think they would say? He asked Jinwoo, who had joined him on the balcony. Our ancestors, if they could see what we chose to do with their gift? Jinwoo smiled, thinking of the ancient humans who had planned so carefully for this day. I think they would be proud. We had the power to become conquerors, and we chose to become protectors instead. That is the most human thing of all. Above them, the stars seemed brighter now, not because the light had changed, but because the darkness between them was no longer filled with fear. Across the galaxy, 1 billion ships carried a simple message that would be remembered for millennia to come. We are here. We are ready. We are one.